Hi and welcome. This is Visionary Life Hacks, here to connect, here to inspire, here to be the change. If you're watching the live, welcome. If you're watching the replay, welcome. And if you share this, thank you for sharing. And I'm not going to say sharing is caring. I suppose it is in a way. Yeah, to share. So today I'm going to talk about something really interesting. Through my work, I get to talk to really interesting human beings, working with antique Tesla healing devices, and I get a variety of questions, and sometimes the machines go to folks that have got clinics and this and that and the other, and what a lot of people often eventually get is you can only use the machine for 6 minutes. Now, it's interesting what happens then from the thought of the 6 minutes. You might be like, oh no, I can only use the machine for 6 minutes. But you might not need the machine for 6 minutes. I was just talking to a practitioner today, and he was telling me an amazing story about a gentleman that he worked on for like 3 minutes. Literally 3 minutes, and then he didn't hear from him for a few months, and it was like, that 3 minutes that you worked on me helped me, like totally helped him. Now, if you look at one of the Shine seminars with Mr. Clive DeCarl, he often talks about his journey with this specific technology, and he'll tell you a story as well about when he worked on somebody and he'd gone to some sort of rave, and the guy had been a DJ and he damaged himself on some speaker, and Clive did a bit of work on him, and then the next day called him at like 7 o'clock in the morning or something like that, you know, and he was like, could you come back over? You know, that work you did on me was so good, I danced all night, now I need a bit of work doing. And he worked on him again, and didn't hear from him for like months later, but it actually helped. So again, it comes down to quality over quantity, and you never know where that individual is on their individual journey. You never know. It might be that point where they've been doing little things and changing little things, and then you show up with your machine, they have a go on the machine, and it was just that little thing that they needed to just flip them over the edge to get them to where they needed to be. You know, everything is deliberately executed. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So I find that really, really beautiful. And my mate's just been working on somebody over in the country of America, and his friends had an issue going on with his ear, and it's a relative, and he's been working on the ear, like short sessions, 3 to 6 minutes for the last few days, and his ear's better. And this has been an ongoing challenge. Now, I'm not making any claims, I'm just telling you a story. It's ridiculous that I even have to say this, isn't it? But I'm just telling you a story about a friend that just shared with me today, and that's his story. You know, it's amazing. So we've got stories like this all the time. Now, if you are a practitioner and you're like, you already will have your own bearing. I have folks that are like 35 years strong, chiropractors, different kinds of walks of life. I've got a friend who's a fascia wizard, and everybody's got their own individual style and flavour that they've developed, you know, be that with your food, be that with your natural medicines. And with this technology, think about Jerry Tennant and clearing the body, having voltage, or look at the works of, you know, have a read of something like this by Franz Barden, Initiation into Hermetics. This came to me from a customer, and he was like, have you heard of Franz Barden? And I was like, no, I've heard of Steiner. And he was like, well, check out Franz Barden for beta. And I did, and it's been really inspiring, because in those days they regarded the human being as electromagnetic. Now, what I'll do, so it's 1838, and we'll start in a minute, but let me say this to you. A lot of people, like someone like Jeff Barrett with the TZLA, will be going, I can run my machine for hours. That's like saying I meditate for hours. I've met people that meditate for hours, and they're not the most smartest of people. And really, I don't think it's about how long you can meditate. You know, you could have like all the money in the world, and you might be really unhealthy. So I don't think you can measure something by the quantity, it's about the quality. Now, bear in mind, this is high frequency and it works on, thank you, Kate, it works on I think it's 1/10,000th of a second or 1,000. Don't quote me on that, but it's thousandths of a second, because what you've got going on in the machine, let me show you. Inside of the machine, inside of here, there's a Tesla coil, and the Tesla coil is mechanic, and there's iron rods with wound copper with a rare earth mineral, and when I turn the dial connects to the rare earth mineral and it moves like that, like very, very fast. And that is like 1,000th of a second or 10,000ths of a second. So whatever that is, if you put that measurement into 1 minute with high frequency, you know, and then you think, okay, I'm using the machine. Now, in the literature, they might have 3 minutes for a certain ailment, 6 minutes for a certain ailment, 10 minutes for a certain ailment. The Germans were going very deep into what this was. And they also show you like the spine and the different organs. But the main crux of this is to work. It's almost like a food. Read the old literature, and they spoke in a familiar way. They're adding food into the body. It's like nourishment into the body. So when you understand what cellular health is, or metabolism, everything I like to do, I like to work with things that the body can recognize. For example, we're having beef tonight, and we've dug up some horseradish from the garden, and we were like, and then we've made a really delicious horseradish sauce from the garden, putting in amazing like apple cider vinegar from the best source that we know, a little bit of Celtic grey minerals, sea salt. So these are all things going into a little bit of nice A2 dairy cream, and you put that into your amazing horseradish. You eat that horseradish, your body recognizes it. That's what the metabolism is. It's like the body can utilize something that it recognizes and then use it. It can use it because it's like, oh, I recognize this. It's horseradish, it's apple cider vinegar, it's grey sea salt, it's A2 dairy cream. I can utilize all of this. Now, if the horseradish was less than organic, and if the salt was like table salt, and if the vinegar was like malt vinegar, and it being, you know, you don't know the malt they were using, it might be GMO malt. And if the salt, well, I mentioned the salt, what was the other thing? The cream, if the cream was pasteurized dairy, I might eat that, and my body might go, oh my God, what is that? And put it into the stored fat and not know what to do with it. So when you're using something in the body that the body recognizes it, because there's no trickery going on, the body will utilize it and do what your body wants to do in that moment in time. Now, a lot of people today have reduced themselves to thinking that they're a diagnosis. But where did they get the diagnosis from? Often they got the diagnosis from maybe an alternative health practitioner, or in the worst case scenario, a compartmentalized scientist that maybe only small, you know, a compartmentalized scientist that is regurgitating what has been told to be given to them through their intent. Well, I studied for 7 years. Well, how much did you study in natural medicine? How much did you study in acupuncture? No, you know, it wasn't alternative years and years ago. It was all to do with the healing arts of healing the human body. So you wouldn't limit yourself, would you? You wouldn't limit yourself if you were a vet and you learned that acupuncture was good, and you learned that traditional Tibetan medicine was good, and you learned that Hippocrates was great, and you learned that Galen was great. You wouldn't limit yourself, would you? You'd add all of those valuable assets into your repertoire, because that would make you the greatest vet, wouldn't it? And you know, it's the same with the doctor. But because often you're getting a diagnosis from a compartmentalized human that has only invested a small amount of time getting to know you, well then, like, it's a compartmentalized diagnosis. And if we don't even know what water is, if we don't really know what magnetism is, how on earth does a stranger know what's wrong with you? And, you know, rather than them saying everything that's right with you and going, hey, have you considered listening to some Louise L. Hay on I Can Heal Myself? Or, you know, did you know that your human body's an electromagnetic being? And maybe let's try some electromagnetic homeopathy. Because back in the day, when you'd gone to the doctor might have got this out. Isn't that a great thing? I think that's a great thing. It's true. You might have gone to the barber, and the barber might have been using this on your scalp. This is what the barbers were using. This is what the naturopath was using. This is what the chiropractor was using. This is what the physician was using. They didn't call the naturopath alternative health. They didn't call the chiropractor alternative health. The chiropractor was regarded as the same dignity, the same superhero dignity as we had for the physician, we held for the chiropractor and the naturopath. And there probably, I don't want to upset anybody, there probably wasn't any women naturopaths back then, women chiropractors back then, or women physicians back then. This is just how it was. Where was the woman, Piers Morgan? The woman was probably at home looking after the family with her aunties and her grandmother and, you know, and the family looking after the children, educating the children from home. That's my take on it anyway. So what we're going to do now, we're going to run 3 minutes, and I want you to take a little deep breath. I want you to get into like grounding yourself and being the strongest version of yourself, and see how long 3 minutes is. So we're at 1844. Oh, and by the way, happy Gregorian New Year. And all of you that are into Chinese and all that kind of stuff, well, we're in winter, aren't we? And if you're into growing food, well, you know we're still in winter. So happy, an excuse to celebrate. Woohoo! So we're on 45, 46, 47, 48. So we'll start directly at 46. So that'll be 49, we finish. I want you to see how long 3 minutes is. At 1/1000th or 1/10,000th of a second. I think it's 1/1000th of a second into, here we go, 45. We're just going to wait for 46. Hi, Ed. Hey, Ed. Ed, this is your machine. You're potentially your machine. I'm going to fire her up now. I'll show you. We're waiting for 46. Happy New Year, brother. So this is her. She's a beauty. Sunco. The clue is in the name, Sunco. Very simple to use. We just get her ready, getting her ready. She's on. We're going from weak to strong. And then increase.